Hello, and welcome to 10 Very Big Books, a Malazan Read-Through podcast. My name is Peter Bond. I've read every book in the main series, and with me today is my friend and closest confidants who are reading the series for the first time. That's right, it's India Jones. How are you, my friend?
Hey, hello. I'm well. It's over.
It's over. Another one bites the dust.
Absolutely.
AJ Fileri.
Yes, hello. I'm here. I was waiting for something more. Hi, how's it going?
It's going good. I have a bit of a headache. Joshua Dean Baker.
It seems like there's a nickname on the tip of your tongue. I was giving you a moment to come out with it.
Always leave them one and more. That's a bit of showbiz advice.
Oh,
you know?
okay. That's fair. Hello.
We have finished up Book 8, Toll the Hounds.
Wow.
And here we are going to discuss the exciting conclusion of Steven Erikson's 8th, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Listen, this is a very, very long ending. A lot of stuff happened. So I think we should legitimately start the show right now. It was Peter's call. So
I second that motion.
You know what? Sure. Let's get into it. We don't need to talk. You know what? Actually, before we move on, everybody, let's say your favorite
AJ, I would really
opening
prefer,
bit.
AJ, I'd prefer if you could follow parliamentary procedure. I seconded it. Now we need to see if the floor agrees.
I third.
Thank you, India.
India thirded.
That's it. That's majority.
I
abstain.
That's the majority. Gavel, gavel, gavel. So say we all. All right. Let's start.
Okay.
Chapter 20. Chapter 22. Chapter 22. Karsa, Traveler, and Samar near Darujistan. The city glows, and they approach it now on foot, leaving havoc behind. Karsa mentions that the bear god might still be following them. As Kalor nears Darujistan, Spinak Durav appears and warns him that the city is not for him. Namander and the others find a rift of black water that is flecked with pure crawled Ghislaine. They will be able to use this to reach black coral. Namander is worrying about the plan when Clip rushes through first. Nananda follows and her throat is slit by Clip. Next is Namander. He wanders through the darkness. He hears Fade's voice. His blood-stained hands call Arantha. Saland believes she will kill the Redeemer. She is lying on the ground, with Saman Kellic leaking from her. Monkrat and Spindle see Gratathan, and then decide it is time to get the kids out of the camp. Seer Daman stands before the Redeemer, and they speak of the dying god and Saland. Seer Daman is urged to go forth and fight on behalf of Love and his friend Spinak Durav. Picker finally stops her strange journey and sees a large wagon plunging towards her. Endis Salan thinks of Animander Rake, and Solana is almost ready to strike. Karsa, Traveler, and Samar approach the city. Samar erects walls in her mind, and together they see the moon has shattered above them. Chillbase has followed Traveler and declares that he is here. Dasamal Tor is here. In the streets, Cotillion approaches Traveler, and they begin to speak. Karsa stops Samar from hearing what they said. Traveler cries out in sorrow, and then proceeds further into the city. In Dragnapur, Draconis and Pearl watch as the Chaos Army approaches and the world is imperiled. Apsalara is going to try to escape through the gate when Hood arrives. Hood has struck a deal with Animander Rake, and Hood calls forth his armies of death. We see the bridge burners, Iskar Jarek, the second Segula, and more riding forth to fight.
as we start chapter 22, I just want to say shouts out to India because I saw a post on Reddit the other day about fantasy series you tried and could not finish. And someone said they had just finished Toll the Hounds on Reddit and they could not go any further. And I was like, you're so close. How could you drop? And then I was like, we don't give that option to India, though. It's kind of mean of us because this guy was very, very anti-Malazan. And I could not stop. It was like hours of me being like, we're holding her hostage in a way. And I do feel a little bad about it. But thank you, India, for being here.
It's funny you mentioned that. I didn't want to announce this on the show, but this will be my last season.
Nice.
I'm so confused how you can say you hate Malazan and you've read 8 of the fucking book. Like, your out was 5 books ago, my guy. Like,
I'm also confused because I think this is one of the better ones by a long shot, in my opinion.
yeah.
Listen, that sounds like something to talk about in the mailbag. And
Hey.
I will say India should, of course, leave the show at any time if she wants to. So my official opinion. But
Yeah, we're not holding you hostage.
yeah,
to
I
be
reject.
clear.
I reject that claim. I often.
We obviously cherish having you on the show, India, but if this is causing you any physical pain, then please feel free. But
Sure.
However, you would have to draft a replacement, and then maybe if you could try
2 weeks notice.
2 weeks notice.
There's an extensive
kinda-
training as well.
There is an extensive training, and actually, if you wouldn't mind just staying on through the next 2 seasons,
Yeah.
I think that would really help the show.
Maybe it's like maybe in a consultant role.
Right.
In
Well,
a consultant role.
Yeah, we can discuss that. Let's discuss that. My contract later.
yeah.
The thing is, we've already negotiated the contract. Okay, let's start. All right. The chapter starts. Everyone's headed to Darujistan in this chapter, and we check in and we see Karsa, Traveler, and Samar, and then we also see Kalor going. I want to start, though, with kind of the confrontation with Clip that happens earlier on in this chapter. They're trying to step through this crawled glade.
Mm-hmm.
And Nananda dies, and then kind of they're being confronted. This is the start of kind of the Clip stuff, and they also learn about them being dragons, in a sense. India, were you surprised by Nananda's death, and did you care about her passing?
Was I surprised? I guess, yeah, but also no. This book has been really heavy on the, important people deaths, which I feel like every time kind of, but no, this one has been carelessly just okay, yeah, now he's dead. So also, I always had a really hard time with this group of people. They really aggravated me. So, I just feel like it was time to leave a long time ago, and this probably could have been avoided.
What do you mean by time to leave?
I would have never been, I feel like early on, I may have been I should probably not be here with these psychopaths. Clip is a psycho. I should just maybe go off into the woods, walk into the mountains,
Yeah.
Am I crazy?
If it sucks, hit the bricks, That's what they say.
Exactly.
Well, I agree. It doesn't seem like a great hang. I would have not spent a lot of time.
Well, that to say, I guess no, I'm not. Well, yes, I'm surprised, and no, I'm not sad. New character that I didn't really vibe with, and I don't really vibe with any of them with that group.
I'd like to go on the record that I think actually my problem with this group is that the 3 dudes have very easy to distinguish simple personality traits, and then the 3 girls are written as obtuse as possible. You cannot understand what they're doing literally fucking whenever, and that has driven me crazy for many chapters.
Women, am I right?
Kind of is how it feels sometimes.
No.
Because one is being inhabited by a fucking goddess,
Right.
and then her only personality trait is that she clings to men, and then the third one died. I can't remember anything about her.
They just buried her.
A couple chapters ago. You're not wrong. What was her name? Desra?
Was it Desra? Desra feels
Also forgotten.
Fuck off.
Shit.
Got him.
Feels bad. The disrespect.
Sorry.
All right, let's keep it cruising.
That was pretty cool when Faye was like, "Hey, you can turn into a dragon." I thought that was
You
cool.
can turn it. I mean, it makes sense.
it makes
right?
sense, yeah, but it never crossed my mind.
Yeah.
Probably because it's hardly been talked about, and we don't know anything about it. That's probably why, AJ.
Yeah.
I bet it'll be important in a book from now.
Maybe.
Maybe.
You know what, India? I would bet that you're right.
AJ, we see a little bit about what's going on with Salin too. I'd say all this Sam Kellic imagery is just like gross and in a good way, you know?
Yeah, it's extremely evocative and very horrifically written about.
Yeah, I find it affecting. But I did want to check in with you and everyone about this kind of, because now that you kind of see what's going on, about kind of the late emergence of Spindle as a part of this whole storyline. And what do you think about that? And we briefly talked about it last time, but I think now you understand he's like here. He's a part of this ending in a sense.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I always kind of like these points of views of like the soldier who like doesn't really know anything but how to be a soldier and is kind of wrestling with that, which I feel like is most of the bridge burners, but like very specifically usually like Fiddler. So like I'm happy to have that kind of like storyline in this book. I don't know. I thought it was interesting to have Monkrat kind of come around and you know deal with all that stuff. And when he was talking to Spindle and he says like he sees like a 3-legged dog or something like limping or whatever, and then at the end of that section it's like, oh, he's not limping, he's running or something. I can't find that. You're a damned hound of shadow is what you are. Yeah, that's what it was. I don't know. I thought that was kind of neat. Love to persevere. Love to have characters who persevere. So it's a great.
Yeah, he is trudging through.
Yeah, but I mean, as far as like Spindle as like a larger piece, I don't know. I didn't really feel a whole lot about it. I do kind of wish we got more of their relationship, like Spindle and Monkrat. I wish that stuff kind of happened a little earlier, so that it could actually kind of turn into something and not just like Spindle showing up and being like, hey, this guy sucks. And Monkrat being like, yeah, you're right, actually. I always thought that. But thank goodness someone is here to tell me. And then they kind of join forces. I don't know. I think it's a nice storyline. I just kind of wish it was a little more developed or just like had more time to breathe. I don't know.
Sure. I kind of get that. I do have a sense of like, why now? Is it just because it's the ending of the book?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
We needed we needed to feel not bad about the children dying when the dragon destroys this place. So someone needs to get them out.
Yeah.
Good point, Josh.
Yeah. But it was it was just like a really interesting, or it was just like a really kind of sudden heel turn for Monkrat to be like, I've been thinking this the whole time, but you just didn't know. Which is like, okay, I don't know, feels weird, but okay.
It's actually a face turn.
Oh, is there a difference between a heel turn and a face turn?
Yeah, that's a wrestling phrase.
Heel turns you're turning towards being a bad guy.
Yeah, and faces are the good wrestlers.
Whoa, I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. That's what that phrase is from.
That's wild.
Learn something new every day.
Clearly, you guys didn't have a weird middle school wrestling phase.
No, I did wrestling once in second grade and got ringworm from the mat. And my mom said, nope.
No, I'm talking about like a weird phase. That's disgusting. I meant like a phase in middle school where you got really into professional wrestling and watching it.
Yeah. No.
Josh, you were a professional wrestler in middle school?
Yeah.
Nice.
All right. So, Josh, an element of this final Seer Domain plot is him feeling motivated about the theoretical love between Salin and Spinach Durov. What do you feel about this motivation, and does their love resonate in your heart in the way it resonates in Seer Domin's heart?
I didn't think about it too hard. I liked it. I enjoyed it. I feel like Spinach Durov and that nightly game was like the only thing stopping Seerman from just like fucking killing himself. So, like anything, he would do anything for the person who like gave him that reason, that will to live. So, I mean, I thought it was pretty impactful to me. I liked it. Sad that he's fucking dead afterwards,
Yeah.
Yes.
But also, like, he was going to be a sad boy forever. And like, at least he gave his life doing a cool thing. And that's probably a better ending for him.
No, bad take, Josh.
What do you mean?
Bad take. He could, no, okay. I gotta cut that take off in the neck.
Okay.
He was depressed, so it's good he died doing something.
He felt good about himself as he did it,
I don't know. I feel like Seer Domin could have had a better ending then, but
it is possible. You're right.
What if he started a small business?
That's hysterical.
Oh, Seer Dominoes.
Seer Dominoes. Fuck
Thank
off.
you, AJ.
Jesus Christ.
They're kind of the engine of our economy,
Yeah.
Anyway. So we see Picker. Did you guys know where she was going?
Yeah. Immediately, Peter. 100%.
Wow. I do. You know what? I do ask you guys some questions like that sometimes. Feels like the real fucking mistake,
I mean, when I saw the care, actually, I think I did, because she needed to find Gruntle, and then the carriage showed up, and I was like, oh, I did have the thought of, oh, they're being led by an undead guy sent by Hood. They're gonna go to where Gruntle and them are, or something.
Mm.
I did kind of feel like that was what was gonna happen, but I didn't know why. So,
all right, India. So obviously the whole Samar Dev kind of witch burn stuff has kind of been slowly developing towards the end of this book. And here, Karst is kind of giving her some advice about how to channel that. How much of this interests you? Do you like this new form? And obviously, she kind of uses some of these powers later on.
I love it. I love Samar and Karsa, and I think Samar needed more. I don't know. Her storyline is really interesting. It's one of, like, I like her a lot because I don't know. I just like her and Karsa together. So I think it's cool and fun, and that's it.
Well, let's take a step further then. So I think there's, her magic is obviously kind of flavored a little differently, and it's like kind of this different type of stuff. And I wonder what you make of this kind of mix of the magical mystical with her like inventor civilization progress realm. I feel like they're kind of this overlap of these two things. Do you feel like they both kind of mix in a good way or are clashing for her?
I would say, I'm not sure. I think they mix in a good way.
Yeah, I think so too. In my mind, they should clash, but
It's a
I don't know.
Question, dude.
Okay.
No, I'm just saying. I'm just a real thinker.
Yeah, I'm trying to. Yeah, it is. It's a good question. It's real.
I feel like they make sense for her. All right, I guess we'll leave it there. Scooching on a bit.
They also see that the moon is shattered.
we really just don't even talk about that much in this chapter. It's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, what are you going to do about it, Josh?
Especially when a fucking new one shows up. You kidding me?
Yeah, what'd you guys make of that?
I got it. I wouldn't want to live here.
You would move.
I would move. I don't. I mean, on the entire world. If our moon blew up, I would peace. I'll be a
What if the moon fell?
Probably die.
That seems like a bigger problem.
Yeah.
No? All right, just me. Okay.
What,
Is that a
Moonfall,
reference to
that movie.
Thank you,
yeah.
AJ.
No,
for
I
the
don't want to talk about
Moonfall
Moonfall.
rep.
Fuck off.
I was waiting for India to catch my new moon Twilight reference.
I didn't hear it.
It's okay.
I mean, it is a reference, but Josh, there also is a new moon. So, like.
Yeah, but.
I can't really.
No, Stephanie Myers made that idea.
Exactly.
That's her.
Oh, shit.
Exactly.
Wow.
So they get further in the city, and the traveler is really making his way into the city. It's a whole thing. We're going to talk more about it. And we also explicitly hear from Chill Baeus that he is Dassam Ultor, which, of course, we knew, but is kind of explicitly confirmed here before.
Mm-hmm.
So then Traveler and Cotillion have a conversation. Anyone have any thoughts about this conversation? Interest in this conversation?
I thought it was interesting because, I mean, as later on in the chapter, to me, I think it was the conversation was actually like, you're going to have to kill Animander Rake. And what I thought initially was them going into the thing, I thought Cotillion was being like, you can't go and kill Animander Rake. But it was actually the opposite. And Traveler was upset that he was going to have to do it and not upset that Cotillion was trying to stop him.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was good. It was a nice bluff. It really kind of kept me on my toes.
I am curious, though, because in the scene later where he does kill Animander, he says it wasn't supposed to be like this. So I'm curious if he was told it was supposed to end in a different way. You know what I mean? It seemed like he felt like he was tricked in some way because then he left the city afterwards.
Well, there was something weird that happened with the sword that we're never really told of, like, it shouldn't have stabbed him.
Yeah,
so
something weird happened. Yeah.
So something weird happened, and I think Traveler, or, whatever, Dassam, whatever you want to call him, I guess.
Yeah, I don't read that line, Josh, as
Okay.
he was tricked.
Okay.
That's not my reading.
Yeah.
But
I do want to say, Peter, you asked if we were interested in this conversation. And let me tell you, as someone that loves the tea, if there's a conversation I don't get to hear, I'm much more interested in it than a conversation I am able to hear. It's all I'll think about.
well, especially if someone's standing right next to you and it's like, Josh, no.
Exactly.
You can't listen.
Exactly. Oh, I'm desperate.
Take no step further. All right, let's come here towards the trying to think about how to frame it. Dragnipur.
Perfect. That's the perfect way. Yeah.
Do you want to? We could workshop some entrances for that. Do you want
Dragnipur.
RuPaul's Dragnipur?
Swing into the sword we go.
You didn't hear? I said RuPaul's Dragnipur.
Nice.
Yeah, I shot that down.
Okay, okay.
That was
India,
not
you
for
got
me.
one?
Swing. I liked your swing.
Oh, wait, I
Swing's
haven't.
good.
Dragnipur, I hardly know her.
So we go into Dragnipur, and needless to say, the situation's a bit unstable. And we also have some exciting moments as various people arrive.
Everyone, you mean?
Everyone arrives. Josh, what was this like? How did you feel?
You know, I felt about it pretty much exactly the same as I did in that moment in the Avengers Endgame, which is that they wanted it to be much cooler than I felt it was.
What? Is that really how you felt?
Little bit, yeah. I mean, I think the coolest thing for me was when Talk describes stuff later, but like, I knew they were all coming. You know what I mean? Like, I think I would have felt cooler if I had been like a rampant, like, I need to read the last 7 chapters of this in one sitting kind of deal, but where we like break it up. I kind of had a whole week of knowing that they were all going to go there. So I think that kind of tempered my
Interesting
take on it. But like, it was cool. The Segula are sick.
Even like the Trigal Trade Guild ended up there and stuff. Like you knew.
We're not there yet. Right now, it's just the
army
Hood
that
arrives.
All right,
Yeah.
fair enough.
Actually, you know what was cool was Hood telling him to turn the wagon around, because that made no fucking sense to me.
dude.
That was pretty cool. I
Turn
like
that
that.
wagon around.
Yeah.
India.
Hate to see you go.
How did it land on you?
Similarly, I felt, I don't know, it was cool. It wasn't bad. It was cool. I liked seeing the people, and I agree that Segula are cool.
Yeah, I was absolutely hyped up. Love this moment, love this ending in a lot of ways, and I'm like, hell yeah, they're all here, gang. And they're
Right.
just fucking rolling in. You're like, oh, it's this guy. Boom, it's this guy. You know, everyone's here.
It's a party.
Yeah, it
It's
was
a party.
cool.
I did love this moment right before this with Apsalara being like, and then I'll get out and everyone will think I'm so cool.
Yes.
I love that bit. I really, really liked that bit.
What we see of Apsalara here is pretty funny, usually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, her whole kind of thing is pretty silly.
Yeah. And I
which
feel
is
like it is played as such. I don't actually feel like we're
yeah.
asked to believe she's like the most serious thief of all time or something.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
No, I don't think so.
Why do you think he did that? I feel like it's just I guess she's a comedy god, you know?
Yeah, it's interesting. Because I wouldn't even say the stuff that happens within the sword is particularly like dour. Like all the Kataspala and Ditch stuff is also kind of good. Like in the sword is kind of like a farce in a way, you know? Like there's always like, what crazy antics are we getting into this time in a way? But like, you know, there is this looming form of chaos in the distance, but also like Draconis doesn't want Ditch to move, so he breaks his spine. Like that's hilarious.
All right. I guess I'm not seeing it from the angle you're seeing it. I did not find that stuff funny.
Well,
but
instead of being like, hey, don't move, he's like, okay, well, he's going to try and move. So I'm just going to fucking like turn the slider all the way to fucking 25. Like, you know, there's no middle ground between like do this or don't. It's like, you are going to do this and I'm going to fucking break your spine. I don't know. It's pretty silly to me.
I guess I just don't have your twisted sense of humor, you know?
Yeah, I'm a big Family Guy head.
Well, we can talk a little bit this more later on. Obviously, it's not fully over yet.
Mm-hmm.
I just think it rules, and Josh is wrong. So, all right, let's shuffle along to chapter 23. But before we do, we want to thank everyone who supports us on Patreon.
All right, this week we'd like to thank these patrons. We've got NB Cardle, Aaron's, we don't say last names,
No last names.
Matt, Anna with the double N, and Brian.
Thank you all so much. By the time this goes up, there should be a new patron episode with me, Pete, and Josh talking about tabletop role-playing games and actual play media and all that stuff. So if you're interested in that, $1 on the Patreon will get you access to all of that and our previous patron bonuses as well. Thank you to all our current patrons. And let's get to the next chapter.
Chapter 23. The ox tears through Darujistan, and Iskarl Puss leaves the Temple of Shadow. Pallid and Baron, 2 hounds, chase each other through the city and destroy where Barathol is imprisoned. Chower strikes one of the hounds and gets an axe to Barathol, but Chower is badly wounded. Barathol sees this as Ansi breaks out and asks where a healer is. Rallick and Torvald stand together, looking out across the chaotic city. The moon shattered above them. Torvald jokes about Vorkan. Then she shows up and they speak about finding Baruch. Scorch and Lef set off to find the Hounds of Shadow. Cutter walks through the city, thinking of Absalar. Meanwhile, Chalice stands on her rooftop, looking at the sky, holding a globe in her hands. Cutter, holding the lance, thinks of stabbing it through Shadowthrone. Chalice reflects on the choices she has made recently. Cutter, almost reaching Chalice's estate, wants to tell her about Gorlas, and then tell her that Cutter will leave the city. Chalice looks into the globe, and then lets it tumble off of her hands. Then she jumps off the tower. Krupp leaves the Phoenix Inn, thinking on Animander Rake. Barathol and Ansi arrive, asking Baruch for help, but he dismisses them, and they must go elsewhere. Chower's mind goes to an unknown place. Barathol and Ansi end up near Cole's estate, and take Chower's body to the gate of the Azath house. They speak to Raced and see a Talani mass wrapped up in the garden. Chower's body is in stasis, but his mind continues to wander. Envy and Spite make a temporary truce. Animander is weak, and they move to go strike at him and claim Dragnipur. Traveler comes upon Animander Rake kneeling. Samar Dev and Karsa watch. Traveler does not want to fight Animander, but he must, and a duel begins. Cultists to the Lord of Tragedy watch, chanting. Hundreds of ravens flutter and watch the battle. The swords dance and the two battle until Traveler deflects Dragnipur into Rake. Animander falls. Ravens swarm over him. Traveler cries out. The moon fills Darujistan with light as the Hounds of Light arrive. They have come to find Dragnipur, and Tullis Shorn tracks them from above. Iskarl Pust and Krupp meet, both on the back of mules, and yet another great duel occurs. Samar watches 2 women and a rider with a lance approach. Baruch weeps for Animander Rake. Cutter approaches the body and asks Samar how this happened. Karsa says they must speak to Traveler. As the Hounds of Light approach, Cutter introduces himself as Crocus Younghand. Nearby, Spite and Envy unleash their warrens on the Hounds of Shadow. Spinnock is holding Kalor off in a ferocious duel. After a while, Kalor strikes him down and they speak. Spinnock hopes he can find peace, and then Kalor says he will give Spinnock a clean death. Then 2 dragons emerge from the sky. One grabs Kalor and the other lands. It is Korlat, who helps him to heal. Kalor manages to wound the other dragon, Orphantal, in the sky, and they both plunge back to the ground. Kalor, wounded, gets up and continues towards the city. Josh, what's up with this ox?
Love this. It's a Pete. Pete. It's a metaphor.
It's a metaphor. Okay,
It's a metaphor. From
Okay,
I think
it's a metaphor.
I think if you don't get it, having explained to you isn't going to help. So we may as well just move on.
I see.
You know, explaining it is kind of like the ox, you know?
It is kind of like the ox.
That's so ox.
You know, life's kind of like an ox when you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's got flies. It meanders.
It meanders.
It's there when you need it,
There you go.
and then it's not, and you're dead.
It's a heavy burden to carry.
Mm.
So India, these the hounds are fighting. The Hounds of Shadow it is, and then Chower here this is where he gets injured.
This was very confusing for me.
Yeah, it was a bit of a brawl.
A clusterfuck, if you will.
A clusterfuck, if you will. I feel like this is one of the rare times we see the Hounds of Shadows like full power unleashed, in a sense. Like the hounds are out. Well, what did you make of this? I feel like before we really hear people talk about the Hounds of Shadows a lot. Of course, we see the remnants of their attack in Gardens of the Moon. So
Yeah, they're little vicious puppies, but that's it. They're cute, and I love them. And if they ever made a movie, I wouldn't want to see it because I hate the sound of the little that just happens so frequently in this ending.
I thought you were gonna say you would hate the sound of like a line like this. Even as Pallid crushed in its jaws the head of the last guard. Like I thought you'd say something.
No,
like,
I
you know,
would.
like the
I
sound
don't
of a
mind
crushed
that.
skull.
I'm
Okay,
team.
all right.
I'm team hounds. They're
Well,
badass. I love
she
them.
doesn't want the dogs to
Right,
get
right.
hurt, you know?
Right.
Yeah. No, I'm all about the hounds. They're amazing.
To be fair, when dogs do make the like bad impression, it is a sad sound, you know?
It's
very
the
sad.
saddest of sounds.
Do cats make that sound?
They scream.
Yeah, they
Yeah, I'd say
scream.
cats is kind of a more angry, kind of like trying to intimidate kind of thing.
Like that kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Ah,
yeah.
you're
No,
right. You're
they're
right.
like scared. It's sad. It's
Yeah.
still very sad.
But Chower is injured, and then
Yeah,
Our
grievously
boy.
so.
yes, pretty badly. So then they kind of enter a scrambling state to try and help out,
Yeah.
which we'll follow up in a second.
Mm-hmm.
And then we kind of cut up to the roofs where Torvald and Rallick are kind of looking down on the city and catching up. AJ, which one of these cousins do you like more?
Oof. I think I like Torvald more. I think Rallick is the cooler cousin, but I think I would like to hang out with Torvald.
Oh, for sure.
He's just, he's just a fun guy,
Yeah, Rallick does not seem like a fun hang, despite him being a part of the Phoenix Inn hangout crew.
Right. Yeah, I wouldn't say Rallick's really there to hang out. He's just there because it's like convenient or something, or like that's where all of his allies are. He's not there for like the hangs.
Yeah. And they're kind of watching over the chaos together, and there's a little bit more of this moon imagery, of course, and there's some of it with Chalice later. What do you make of this moon imagery, AJ? Obviously, it's kind of paralleling with the first book, Darujistan, the Gardens of the Moon, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, we've got it parallels that. It also parallels last book when the moon exploded.
Of course.
Is this happening concurrently? Is that what this is supposed to indicate? Or no, they couldn't have, because Carson stuff see the moon explode in that part. Aren't they all in the boats when they see Quick Ben protect them from like getting crushed by moon bits? Am I wrong?
I thought Carson had already left the story.
I thought they were all in the boats at that point, because that's bone hunters.
You're correct.
So they're arriving at
Yeah, he's on the Tisty
Lethris
Eater
and
ship.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now I'm confused as to why we didn't see a different blown up moon. Is this another moon? How many moons does this planet have? No comment. All right. Yeah, no, I mean, it's obviously interesting. I think, if we're going like pure imagery or whatever, like the moon is a constant presence and it always looks the same. But then as soon as you see it and, it's blown open, like, no holds barred, everything's changing, So I think, symbolically, I think this is like, there's no turning back now. Everything is different in terms of like where we are in the books. But I also just want to know what's going on with the moon. It's interesting because like, I don't want to skip ahead. I don't remember when that happens, but like the Hounds of Light come from the moon, right? Or do they just, the moon gets really bright and then they show up Am I remembering that wrong?
Well, it's because they were in darkness before, because they had supernaturally created a field of curled Ghislaine, and then the light reflected from the moon broke through that and allowed the hounds to teleport.
Got it.
Because there was zero light. That's where the fires couldn't spread, because there was no light.
Okay, I had misremembered or misread that, and I was just a little confused. Okay, so now I'm just straight up confused about the moon. I just want to know what's going on with the moon. So that's where I'm at with the moon.
I think that's very reasonable, Jay.
What's
Pete,
going
you look
on
like you're laughing
with the
at me.
moon?
Yeah. You know what I think about whenever there's moon shit, AJ? Is the fucking jade hands full of alien people. Huh?
Yeah, dude.
Remember them from 4 books ago?
I do, as a matter of fact, and I am just waiting for them to show up, I guess.
Yep. Me too.
We see Scorching left a little bit, doing a little bit of fighting. We check in with Cutter as he is kind of marching through the city, and he's talking about kind of how reckless it was for Shadowthrone to let loose the Hounds of Shadow in the city. What do you think, AJ? Reckless decision?
Maybe. It depends what the goal is. If the goal is to wreak havoc, then no, that's the perfect decision. But, if the goal was to just like have a dog party or something, then no, this is a bad idea,
To just stay in the dog park.
I think it's pretty silly for Cutter to say like, this was a reckless move, because like, he doesn't know what's going on. It's reckless because people die, I guess, which like, I guess.
I think that is true, though. I
know, but to say something is reckless, I feel like you're like commenting on the end goal of like, it's reckless for this to be a step in your plan, but like he doesn't even know what the plan is.
Yeah, I feel like reckless implies that there's a chance it could backfire in some way. You know what I mean? Like it could ruin the plan, not really the damage it causes along the way.
I guess we'll just have to disagree with this one, gang.
Here, I'll just look it up. Reckless.
The definition of reckless?
Without thinking or caring about the consequences of an action.
That sounds like Shadowthrone all the way down.
Yeah, I guess he is reckless.
So I guess he is reckless, yeah.
So the thing is, Cutter's kind of making his way through the city to go and talk to Chalice, who we see Josh. She is at the top of the tower. Kind of thinking about the moon in a sense. And then, of course...
The dust of dreams.
The dust of dreams, if you will.
I did catch that, yeah.
So what did you make of what happens with Chalice here, and how did it strike you?
I'm going to be honest. I had like a gut feeling when she first compared herself to the person trapped in a snow globe. I was like, at some point, that snow globe's going to break. And that's going to be very important. And part of me was like, maybe she kills me, maybe that's how she drops it when she dies. I didn't know it would come from like her literally hurling herself off a tower, which I thought was wild. And also immediately forgotten by the rest of the book afterwards.
Yeah,
AJ and I texted about this. Never mentioned again, rest of the book. Cutter, I mean, look, on the bright side, Cutter will never know. And this poor boy does not need more guilt on his shoulders. So...
India, what did you make of Chalice's death here?
I spoiled that for myself. So
yeah, I thought that was it.
I knew already. I knew the whole sequence of events already. So I didn't think anything. I kind of just like reading through it. I was like, damn. But also I hate to speak ill of the dead, but she was so annoying and so just like awful. Like, she had all these choices. She really did. And she felt so stuck in her. It's just like, no, you should have just taken your money and left. And that's how I feel. Just left with some rich fool.
Some rich fool. AJ, how did it strike you?
I mean, like Josh said, we messaged about it a little bit. It kind of like it happened and I was kind of just like, oh, all right. And then it never showed up in the rest of the book, which I thought was really wild. I mean, I guess Cutter would have been the one to say something about it. And he just he just never went there. It just felt, I don't know. It just felt kind of weird to me. I don't know. I mean, I guess it, it speaks to the helplessness she felt. Like India said, like she did have choices, but obviously she couldn't see them.
We all saw them.
But I don't know, like she's in that situation and it's just kind of been all she's known her whole life. And then I guess Cutter throws a wrench in that, and she decides she wants that life, but with Cutter, and then her husband dies, and she's like, wait a minute, what's going to happen to my life? And then I just felt kind of like it happened, and I was just kind of just like, oh, all right.
Like, why?
Yeah.
Part of me felt like, oh, this would be a real pain to have to follow through in future books. I know a quick way to not need to worry about this storyline going forward.
And I mean, I don't want to like imply that it's like unrealistic that this would have happened, because like, yeah, I get it. I guess just narratively, it's not super interesting for that to be the ending.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I agree with that, Josh. I think you're touching on what I think is kind of the problem in that sense, in that if you really followed this story through and it's like, okay, well, Chalice is now going to have to figure out what her life is like and what she wants. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, well, all of a sudden, this is a huge thing. This seems like it seems like there would be a whole lot of elements to those stories, to that story.
There's a part of me that wonders, like, what was the purpose story-wise of this storyline? Because you could argue, oh, it's because Gorlas has to challenge, Cutter when he gets there, but he doesn't. He could have challenged Cutter for being there, and Cutter could have been like, you killed my friend Murillo. Like, I don't really understand what the purpose of this is, because it also doesn't really impact Cutter, because he leaves without the knowledge of what happens to Chalice. You know what I mean?
I do feel like it was mostly for Cutter, and like the story, how it progressed for him. I don't know. Mm-hmm. Everything, like, I think that was the only point. He was going home. Like, he had to see, Charles had to be fit into it in some way, because he was like so obsessed with her in the beginning.
And
now he's like a different person, and it's just like, ooh, but like, it would have been fucked to not revisit it. But then also it was like late, like, okay, but how can we just be done?
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And I suppose you could say like her death is like the death of that part of Crocus's life or whatever, of, him leaving, Murillo's dead. The only other real person who he kind of like chummed around with. I don't know. But that just feels like it's a disservice to Chalice as a character to be like, she was just a foil for Crocus's kind of like development, I guess. But like, I wouldn't even really say,
was, though.
I know. Yeah. But I feel like Crocus didn't even have really any meaningful development with Chalice. It was just more of like, all the women I love are, I'm not able to provide that love again. Which I feel like is a conversation we've now had 3 times with Cutter.
I guess she also kind of bopped him away from Scylla to kind of make room for Solara and Barathol, and then sure. I guess because of him kind of being so disillusioned, that kind of helps him find his path to go back to Absolar. I guess I could argue that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Listen, I don't love the ending of the storyline, but I do think it does make some sense, and I don't really agree that Chalice is only in this story, I think, to serve Crocus's narrative or to kind of be a foil to him. I think, I don't know, to me it reads, it's one of my favorite parts of the book, and I do think it makes a lot of sense on its own, and she is, I think, a character, I don't know, I feel like she's a really independent character in this book, and whilst I find the ending to be a big bummer, I think it makes sense in how I read the larger story. So I just wanted to push back a little bit.
Sure.
I feel like the problems she is struggling with is similar to other problems the characters in Darujastans are struggling with. Where they are in their lives, how they want to progress forward, and them trying to figure out what the next step of their life is. Yeah,
I think actually framing it like that is actually, I feel better about framing it as like a larger scale thing of just like all these people trying to figure out what their role is or like what their future looks like. And for her, she just doesn't see one, I think is better in my head. So,
but I will say, India, I do think you do bring up a good point. I do get where you're coming from, and it feels a little bad. Maybe I see.
Like, it doesn't feel bad. It's just like, whatever, it just doesn't have much of an impact.
Yeah, well, I agree. The ending is disappointing almost. I wish I would have more.
But like, they've all been disappointing, to be fair. Like, everyone's just kind of dying unceremoniously at this point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, most of these deaths are very
and then they're dead.
And not necessarily the whole dramatic death sequence. We see a few other things going on in the city, but I want us to bring with what's going on with Chower. His state is decaying, and they bring him to the Finnest house to get some help from Raced. AJ, isn't Raced a little stinker?
Yeah, I would describe Raced as a little stinker for sure. For sure.
I like this whole thing. What did you think about their plan to bring him inside the Finished House to kind of?
I mean, it tracks. You know, it makes sense. If you don't want someone to die, you bring them in the place where time doesn't move.
Sure.
Where people don't die. You know, I think that track where people actually actively heal if you leave them there long enough. So, you know, that's a pretty good thing.
I feel like it's just such smart thinking, and it's like such a kind of fun callback in a way.
Yeah,
Agreed.
yeah, for sure. And for how much this book mirrors Gardens of the Moon in a lot of ways, like for them to end up in the Finished House again is like, yeah, of course.
Sure.
What Pete? What do you feel? What do you feel about all this? Like where we're in Chower's synapses and stuff. Like, how do you feel about being in Chower's neurons?
It's very abstract in a way that I like, but it is like very untethered to the literal.
It struck me as kind of weird, in a way.
Weird in a way you don't like?
I don't know. I don't fully have a verdict on it yet, I don't think. Like, I like the imagery. I think it's cool to like be in a neuron. I don't know. That's kind of neat. But like, there's this kind of interesting implication. The implication of like, in order for Chower to like grow in like a brain capacity sense, his brain needs to be dead, but not fully dead, so that his neurons can like make new paths and stuff. And then, you know, presumably, I guess, come back later as not as the book describes him, like a child or whatever. Just like feels kind of weird to me.
Is anyone else worried that Race is going to try and use him to take his spot as the Eternal Guardian? Because there's like hints that he's trying to get back out of there, and now he has like a fully functioning person there.
True.
Yeah. Also has the dead Talane Mass out there, just kind of stuck in the weeds, which is pretty funny.
Pretty funny. He's out.
Oh
He stepped out of the path and got caught up.
That's so good.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about that a little too. Just a funny little thing, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, AJ, I don't know. I hadn't really thought about it from that perspective, so I'm kind of just chewing on that.
Sure.
Let us know what you think. What we can talk about in the mailbag.
Yeah, I definitely feel like I'm very curious about what people think about that bit.
Also, the chalice thing. I want people's chalice opinions. All right. Envy and Spite, pull a classic. Suckle Andalou, pull a classic. Menandere, pulled a classic.
Yes.
The other one.
Does Steve have sisters? Do they have a good relationship?
Where the sisters team up, but they're also thinking about betraying one another. India, what did you make of the Envy Spite team up?
So I do have a sister, and this does track, but
you would betray her.
You wound your sister unlike you would wound anybody in life, you know? So it's just a thing that we do. It's very psychological, but Steve made it physical. But also sometimes physical. Once my sister punched me in the face.
Wow.
Good story. We'll talk about it later. Anyway,
did you deserve it?
Yes.
Nice.
To be fair, I did deserve it.
I had it coming.
But anyway, so Envy and Spite. I like their idea to do this together. I like when the sisters get together and then are like, ha ha ha, but then I'm gonna kill you with it. Like, whatever. I'm here for it. Good little try. Not that they did anything, but
yeah. So the thing is, they team up. They're headed to go find Animander Rake, but he is of course preoccupied. From the point of view in Samar Dev, we watch as Traveler kind of duels and confronts Animander Rake. There are a lot of people watching. There are all these ravens. There are kind of people chanting for Decimal Tor. India, what did you make of this duel? How did you feel about the scene altogether?
It was a cool the people, the big crowd, the ravens. That was cool, like in theory to see. I didn't want Animander Rake to die. I was really pissed off about it, like livid. So that was frustrating. But yeah, I don't love a fight scene. So high praise.
Josh, how about you?
I was very sad. I also missed the question, so that felt like a safe answer.
Just looking for your impressions about their duel, you know.
Oh, yeah, I was sad.
Good answer.
Cool. Yeah, crushed it. It was a very cool duel, but everyone knew Animander had to die, it felt like.
Yeah.
What confuses me, who does anyone take Dragnapur at the end? Oh, yeah, who takes Dragnapur at the end? Someone takes it. Oh, Kaladin Brood. That's right, Kaladin Brood comes.
Oh, that's right. Duh.
Because he has to break it. I was going to say I was confused why Spinak Darav had to stop Kalor from coming, but it's because he had to be killed by someone that didn't want the sword, and Traveler didn't want it, obviously. So very sad. And I feel so bad for Traveler having to kill your friend to save the world. Ugh, bummer city. What are you going to do?
What are you going to do? Sometimes you have to kill your friends.
Yeah. Sometimes that's what you learned here. Sometimes you have to kill your friends.
Yeah.
Couldn't he have just given up the sword?
He had to get inside of it, AJ.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Fair enough.
Yeah.
But didn't like everyone know?
Now, if your question is why didn't he just fucking off himself, AJ? I don't know. That's right. You just need a fucking doop, you're in. Doesn't make any sense to me. Sorry, when I went doop, that was me pretending to like get a paper cut on my hand. That's all you need.
AJ, Josh mentioned feeling like it was coming. Did you feel like this was coming? How did this scene strike you?
Yeah, I mean, this whole book, like from the very beginning, the first Animander Endist scene, he was like, basically, at the end of this book, I'm going to die.
Yeah.
So like, I was ready for it. I thought something was going to happen. Obviously, I'd said a couple episodes ago that I thought, Namander was going to do something to like sacrifice himself or whatever. I don't know. But as soon as they met in the square, as soon as Traveler and Rake met at the square, I was like, oh, well, this is it. Like, dude's going to die. I thought the really wild thing about this scene was Karsa saying only a fool would step between these two, and Samar thinking that he sounded shaken, which I thought was wild. In my head, this whole duel looked like a Dragon Ball Z fight of them just like flashing around, and then every couple of seconds they would like freeze with like their swords slamming together, and then like the shockwaves of sound like knocking everybody back or something. It was sick in my head. It was sick.
100%. Karsa straight up was like, I didn't even see him. Like, that's fucking nuts.
Yeah. So cool stuff. Sad ending. I did kind of see it coming. Doesn't make it any less sad.
I do agree. The book is really leading up to it.
I do feel like, did I like misread earlier in the book when Rake told Endis Salon, like, you're going to have to betray me? Because like, I really thought that we had read that, and I don't know what the betrayal was. The betrayal not protecting him? Like what?
Oh, that's a good question.
What is
was the
betrayal
letting him do the thing? I don't know, actually. It's a really good question, AJ.
That's what I just kept waiting for, something to happen with Endis, like giving up his protection against Clip or whatever, and that doesn't happen either. I just don't know what the betrayal is.
I don't really know what you're talking about. I can't help you out
I know
here.
what you. I agree.
Maybe it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe. Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he like goes in. I don't know. Whatever. Okay, let's continue.
So AJ, more hounds. Woof woof.
Woof woof. Bark bark. There's 10 of them. Jesus Christ.
What do you make of the Hounds of Light? If you had to say something.
Pretty scary. Like I don't know what you want me to say. Like that's how I feel about all these hounds. Is like, Jesus Christ, how horrifying. Like, yeah, like. Pretty scary shit. As if the city didn't have enough trouble as it was. And it's a Monday. Yeah. No, it's a Monday. Toolless Shorn is here. I've been omitting it because I do not feel very passionately about that plotline, but let that be known, that's also going on. So Josh, speaking about plot lines we're passionate about, Iskarl Pust. Krupp. They meet at last. The true duel of the century. We're talking the Darujistan SummerSlam. Red's so hype about it. BYOM, bring your own mules. So good. And by excited about it, I mean fucking dumb. But so funny to imagine Krupp engaging in any kind of physical thing whatsoever, let alone fucking a slap fight with Iskarl Pust. Absolutely incredible. And spoiler alert, perfection that by the end of the fight, Iskarl Pust is fighting Magora and Krupp is fully gone. There is no way that could have ended except exactly like that. I loved it so much. Yes, I love the scene too. I think it's a funny, obvious parallel with the previous duel. It's just
two great characters. But Josh,
Can we talk about what Shadowthrone says later? Can we just talk about it now? Because there's going to be so much shit next chapter anyway.
lay it on us.
I think that Shadowthrone saying that Iskarolpus is his magus fully because Iskarolpus wrote a book that was like Shadowthrone the book, and also his cool friend Iskarolpus, his magus, and that just became reality is one of my favorite things about Malazan so far.
It rules.
Manifesting works, Josh. Okay.
It does. You're so right. I am the magus of High House Shadow now.
India, what did you make of this duel?
Silly, stupid. Let's just get it going. Kind of like I just want to end now. Those are my feelings.
It's stupid in the best way, in my official
Yeah,
opinion.
it is, but it's like we're so close. Like, come on.
Wrap it up.
Really, really good, really good.
Like you said, Pete, it's an obvious parallel between the last duel, but I also think it's like one of those classic Malazan, like here's like a break for you. Like you can just have a funny little scene between these two dudes for a second, just to kind of give you a little bit of a breather.
Right.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so Spite and Envy are getting closer. People are kind of converging around Animander Rake's body, and AJ Cutter comes up. He kind of talks to them, and he also, what's that? What's his name? Actually,
I was going to say, who's Cutter?
I've never heard of Cutter. I'm actually Crocus Younghand. Nice to meet you.
Sorry, the old Cutter's not here right now. He's dead.
Yeah.
Wow.
Correct.
What'd you make of that beat and kind of this little convergence of him meeting Samar and being Crocus now?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a pretty interesting narrative arc for our boy Crocus to, you know, throwing away his old identity because he's a killer now, and then finally like accepting like, no, this is part of who I am. You know, I am Crocus regardless of my actions. You know, you can't really compartmentalize that stuff. So good for him for coming to that realization, I suppose. And also, I love when characters meet each other and have to introduce themselves, because I just think it's really funny.
Yeah.
It is very funny when they're like,
'cause
hello,
it's like,
I'm
he was
Samar
standing
Dad.
next to he was standing next to this giant and a witch. Like, yeah. Like, it's just funny. I don't know. Yeah, and then the correct me if I'm wrong, which I think I am.
Okay.
Maybe I'm not though. Did Cutter and Apsalar meet Traveler? Is that how he got, or is that somebody else? They met somebody with a sword that was named like Sadness or whatever.
We're talking about, you're talking about who held Grief, and that was Andorist, brother to Animander Rake, who died, and Andorist was the one who raised
right.
Namander and all of them.
Okay, but now
Yes.
Dassam has that sword?
Because he showed up. Remember, he showed up and killed all the Tisty Eater who were invading, and even
Yes.
Shadowthrone
Yes.
and Cotillion were like off the island. They were like, fuck that noise.
Got it. Okay, thank you. I knew there was a missing bit there. Thank you so much.
Of course.
Okay, cool. I thought it was fun for Crocus to be the only one who like knows what that sword is besides Commander Rake. It's just cool. But I like our boy. I'm glad he's back. And the fight that follows with the Hounds is fucking sick.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's talk about that fight. Spite and Envy are kind of working together, and they are fighting the Hounds of Shadow, and there's a lot of Hound fight. Josh, what'd you make of this? The two of them, kind of Envy and Spite, fighting it up.
They're fine.
Okay, sorry.
I don't know. They're goofy in a way that is kind of counterproductive to the plot sometimes, and that annoys me. You know what I mean? Goofy and not impactful, fine. Goofy and somewhat counterproductive to the good guys winning, annoying to me. I was sad the Hounds of Shadow died. They're very cool. I'm a big fan of them. I miss them already. That's all of them, right? Are they all dead?
They were destroying Darujistan.
I would mean, look, there's no bad dogs, just bad owners. So
Wow.
Deep. All right, India, let's come to the last part of this chapter here. Our guy Spinnik Durav is close to the city, and Kalor, the High King, is so close. They kind of have a confrontation. India, what did you make of this confrontation and Spinnik Durav's will to fight?
He crushed it. Great job. But I don't know why he didn't I do know why, but I don't know. I think his reasoning as to why he wouldn't fight back was stupid. I don't know. Because if Kalor was a little bit damaged, then when the dragon came, he likely could have. Like, the whole thing is stupid. Like, I just feel like everyone's like, oh my God, Callor's so strong, which, like, cool, he is, but, like, do something. What the fuck? That's how I felt. But great job. Love Spinock.
Do you think, India, if he had fought back, that Callor would have given him that mercy and not killed him at the end?
No, that's stupid. He's still lost.
Yeah.
I think he would have, because I think if he recognized the reason he was fighting him, he would have been like, oh, like, I think it would have come to the same conclusion, really.
Okay,
But
I get that.
I think partly also the reason Spinock wasn't fighting is because he knew he could defend well, and he, you know, leaving himself possibly open to like a retaliatory attack by like thrusting or something.
Yeah.
I think he didn't want to leave that stuff up to chance, you know. He's like, well, if I just stay defending, there's no way that he can stab me by surprise or something, you know.
That makes sense.
He was playing to his strengths.
Yeah, in this specific case, because we've seen Callor fight before, it seems pretty fucked up.
Hey, he's really, really good.
Yeah, but in my mind, he is quite an old dude, though, you know?
Well, yeah.
In your mind? You mean canonically? He's incredibly old.
Yeah, he's old, but like
It is one of his things.
age is just a number, you know?
Yeah, he's hot old. You know what I mean? He gets it.
I do have to say, I was really thrown off when they talk about when he's being carried by the dragon, skipping ahead a little bit, sorry, that he like has the claws like in his arm meat. Like, because to me, Callor is just a full skeleton. Like, he doesn't have any meat left.
What? He's a normal human.
He's a human. I used a skeleton in your head.
He's just a human dude.
Dude's like 1,000,000 years old. Like,
Yeah, that's his curse.
I know how it works, Josh. I'm
So-
just saying,
So
like,
AJ, he was cursed during the binding.
yeah, explain this to me like I don't know anything about Malazan. This will be a really easy conversation to have.
Yeah.
And then that's right. Some friends show up to help out. Josh, who shows up?
That's right. Corlat and her brother, Orphantal.
Who we also have met.
Yes, we have met both of them.
Been a long time for these two, hasn't it?
You know, I had a wonder about it because they got brought up this book twice, I think.
Sure.
And one of them was very recent. And I was like, we have to see her again at some point.
I will say, I just feel like sometimes with this stuff, it almost lands like sometimes thing is, I actually don't think the book cares that much about it, but sometimes it just lands like a cameo. I'm like, okay.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm like, sure.
What did we think about Callor's defense of his actions from book 3? I thought that was really interesting, and I do not know what to make of it. His defense of killing Whiskey Jack.
What do you guys think, India?
I think. I'm not sure.
All right, Josh. So you asked, what do you think?
It's really hard because I think more than any other character, I've hated Callor just like unflinchingly for the longest time. You know, we're like 5 books later, and I think he's the scum of the earth. And now he's like, I had to do it. It was part of the greater scheme. I didn't want to, but I'm still like, but you did it though. What was his reason? I can't remember the exact reason he said he had to do it. Do you remember, AJ?
No, Josh, you were the one that brought it up, and you don't even know the reason.
No, I don't. I don't remember much.
Fuck you. You don't remember much. Eat my ass.
I think Callor sounds so ridiculously terrible here. It is like.
Thank you for sharing your feelings. I kind of agree. It's really easy to say you didn't want to murder someone after you murder them.
Yeah.
It is truly some cruel stuff to like be doing violence and be doing harm and then being like, oh, well, actually, I didn't even want to do this. It's actually you are kind of, I had to do this. I'm kind of the victim by having to do the cruelty, you know?
Yes.
And it's like, no, Callor, you are actually not being victimized here. That is but obviously he feels that way. And, there's a conversation to be had there, but it's like, go fuck yourself. That's my opinion.
Well, it's like in book 3, don't we get Callor's POV of him killing Whiskey Jack? Isn't that from Callor's POV?
I thought it was from Corlat's POV.
It's from Corlat's because she like hears the noise behind or something weird like that.
Do we get Callor's POV in that book? I feel like we do. I feel like he's one of the POVs. Like right before he does it, he like smiles or something because he's like, I'm friends with the crippled god or whatever. I
thought we were in Whiskey Jack's point of view, right?
What?
We were because there is the
knee thing. It was the knee thing.
Yeah.
Should have had Mallet heal it when he yelled at me all those years, all those times.
Because he like did a move, or maybe that was, I don't remember. Oh, what a fucking ending. That was horrible.
India's right, because he drops to his knee to try and do a lunge, and his
Yes.
knee fucking gives out.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's what happens. I was just trying to think of the POV.
I think it was Whiskey Jack.
I think it's Whiskey Jack. I think she's
or
right.
Corlat.
Whatever. I was just saying, like, there was a part before that happened where I could swear I remember Calor being like, I love being evil. Like, he basically had a scene where it's like, I love to murder. Like, it just...
Well, he does love to murder, AJ.
I know. So it just seems stupid for him to be like, I was forced to do this. Meanwhile, he's like, tee I love to stab. Like, I don't know.
Well, clearly
Agreed.
this is like, it's just how his mindset works, and we could talk about that, but it's like fuck you, get over it. Like, I don't know what to tell you.
Get fucked.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that. I like that response personally.
All right, that's right. It's time for chapter 24. There will be no chapter summary. We're gonna play a bit of music and then get into the ending of the book. The chapter begins in Black Coral, where Endis Salon is holding back the light from kind of coming to the city, and he's kind of channeling his powers in a similar way he did when he when he held Moonspawn under the sea, and he's kind of using all of his power. But it's quite difficult, and it's kind of this running thing throughout this chapter. And there's a lot of conversation about what necessarily Animander Rake means to the Tistiandi, what they owe him, what their kind of relationship with him is like. AJ, Endisalon's really pushing himself here. And we also see the High Priestess. Did their kind of conversations and these thoughts about Animander Rake like connect with you? I don't know.
I mean, yeah, but like, this is kind of the conversation we've been having through the whole book, I feel like, of talking about how like selfless Animander Rake is, and like how he would do, like, everything that he has done and will do is for his people, or is it at the very least not for himself? So yeah, I mean, it hit for me, but it wasn't like, I don't know, I feel like it wasn't anything that we hadn't already, seen. But I guess we are seeing here Endis Salon like using that as like, he's done so much for us. Animander Rake has done so much for us that now it's kind of time, given the chance to return the favor, I should do all I can. So I guess that's, we're really seeing that kind of aspect of it for the first time, I think. So I liked it. I mean, I don't want to seem like dismissive or anything, but part of me feels like the end of this book is Steve being like, I made the coolest fucking character ever, and he's so cool, and like, isn't he awesome? Which I know is not the case, but in a way it kind of does feel like that, because Animander Rake, is one of Steve's D&D GURPS, whatever, one of his RPG creations. So for him to be like the coolest, most selfless person to ever exist, I think is just kind of funny. But like, I like seeing this kind of I said that the conversations happen throughout the book, but I think they're good conversations or good musings on like the character of Animander Rake despite everything. Like the Tistandi, for all intents and purposes, are like a pretty helpless people, and like Animander Rake a lot of the time seems pretty on board with like the helplessness of everything, or hopelessness, whatever. Hopeless is what I meant, not helpless. And for him to be like, no, he's not hopeless. He's just, he doesn't have any aspirations really, except to like just do whatever he can for his people. So I liked it. He's a good character. I like this whole thing with Endis Salon. I love a character who just like against all odds holds back the big thing. That always gets me.
Sure. It's funny you say that. I feel like I always kind of flip-flop between, I think Animander often can seem to me like a very flat and uninteresting character sometimes.
Sure.
When people spend a lot of time hyping him up, or he's in this kind of simple way. But outside of that, I actually think there is like a more nuanced character there, but you do spend a lot of time with people being like, and there he is, the son of darkness, the Blackwing Lord.
Right, he's the dude with 5 titles. Like, he's got so many titles.
So I think sometimes it's hard for me to kind of connect with the more human part of him. Josh, you're telling me our boy Talk is back inside the sword. Everyone's fighting. You see Talk and you're not stoked. You're not hyped to be with our guy.
So I was hyped for Talk. All right. I even mentioned Talk. I said I liked his part a lot, especially his like ride through and being like, there's Trots and Mallet and Iskar Jarak. Why is he going by that weird Seven Cities name now? You know, that shit was funny to me. I loved that. I just like at the time thought that this was a hopeless battle completely. And I was worried they were all going to die an infinite death. And that made me sad. But look, we get to the end and that doesn't happen. And that's great. 10 out of 10.
It does not. I'm stoked to see Talk back here, of course, our guy.
Talk does a lot of good horse riding, I've learned. That is apparently his thing. And
it's one of his strengths.
I'm there for it. I like it.
And so Talk is kind of told that he will have some new responsibilities by Hood.
But importantly, will still be dead, which I was upset about.
Yes, he will remain dead. Yeah, so inside the sword, this kind of battle is raging as we're kind of touching on. We see everyone fighting, including the Segula, who are putting up quite an important fight.
Oh, we didn't mention last episode. We erroneously said the Segula were dead back at Vorkin's place.
You're right,
and they were not dead. I am sorry. Also, the Shadowhounds aren't dead. Said that last chapter. They're not dead. Sorry, the Tor reread was misleading. I swear I've read these books.
I just want to say I love the moment where the Segula's masks get like filed clean.
Oh yeah,
that fucking ruled, and I think is also symbolically pretty neat.
Agreed.
Awesome. It's awesome.
I feel like I know the perfect amount of information I want to know about the Segula. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I need no more because I just kind of want them to be cool presences. You know?
Mm-hmm.
They've got an island. Check. They fight each other. Check. There's some tribal hierarchy. Done.
I will say you learn a little bit more in some of the ice stuff, but I like that too. So
well, then I guess I'll never read it because I feel perfect.
Wow. All right. So then Gruntle shows up. India, did you think the Trigal Trade Guild was going to end up here, a part of this whole situation?
No, but they always kind of make themselves, they're needed at all times. And it kind of makes sense in this case, because how the hell else would you get out of chaos?
Chaos.
Sword. They're always fun. I like seeing Grunt all. And yeah.
I appreciate the enunciation.
India, we do see a little bit more of Draconis here, and we also hear him like speak more, and then he also speaks about Animander in a way. I'd be curious what your impression of Draconis is here. I feel like this is our first time really seeing him as a character with thoughts and feelings, and not just as like, oh, it's Draconis, the guy. What do you think? What was your impression of him?
I feel like he is very much kind of Draconis, the guy. He's sullen and he seems just very, I don't know, like resigned. I don't find him to be a very like happy, or well, obviously why would he be, you know? Why would he be? But
sure.
He is exactly what I would have like expected. Like, I don't know.
Interesting. AJ, did you have any thoughts? To me, I almost always read Draconis as somewhat villainesque, and I feel like
I never did.
Really?
Yeah,
when we learn about,
I never.
Sorry, AJ was asked.
No, yeah, I never really considered him a villain. What were you going to say, Josh?
I feel like he's described as a villain, and as soon as we met him in this book, I was like, he's just a big sad boy.
Right,
just
literally.
Like half of the characters in this series.
Right, yeah, I think that was like, yeah, we're and even when he's introduced, I don't think he's introduced as like a villain who made an evil sword. He's just like a guy who made a sword, and now Animander Rake has it. Like, I had never seen him as like an evil person or whatever, like just making a sword out of chains, which is the sickest fucking shit I've ever read in my life. That's awesome. Making a sword out of chains to bind souls. I don't know, didn't feel like it was like a power grab or something, because like we've seen Animander rake. Like, he's not more powerful because of the magic sword. It just is a magic sword that somebody made for some reason. And it didn't seem like there was any ill intent in my mind.
Yeah.
I guess.
I feel like if anything, he's got some morality questions, you know what I mean? Like, was what he did good or evil, not is he good or evil? And that's about it. I feel like that's more how I felt about him.
Yeah, no, I feel like my thought comes from just some tropey like place. You know, I feel like made an evil sword.
His name's Draconis.
His name's Draconis. That's a very evil sounding name. You know, I agree with you. I think he comes across as a much different type of character. So
yeah, this makes sense because Peter has always met someone, heard their name, and then immediately judgment called.
Immediately made a character judgment. That is correct.
Yeah, it seems like even in this like inner monologue thing, it seems like he made the sword because he didn't want people to die, which seems weird. Like,
I am still very unsure of the creation of this thing.
Yeah, I
understand why people had to be killed to drag the cart away from chaos. But why did that need to happen? To save?
Yeah, did him making the sword make the Warren with the thing in it, or did the thing already exist? And he was like, I need people to drag this. It must be dead people.
And if it was curled Ghislaine at the heart, did Animander Rake have anything to do with that? You know,
very, very interesting.
So there's a really cool transition here in my mind, in which the second of the Segula kind of
the coolest thing in the book
leaves the one storyline to enter the other storyline and join the fight in Darujhistan. And then the fight in Darujhistan is just popping off. The Hounds are we're battling the Hounds. Josh, what'd you make of this transition and the huge fucking brawl awesome fight time in Darujhistan?
I like a good fight, and there's nothing better than trans-dimensional hopping, picking up your old spear that has been conspicuously being held by a teen for the last 3 chapters, and then being like, this'll do, and then just fucking murdering something with it. 10 out of 10 makes the whole series worth it.
I also just love the kind of like storytelling meta sense of like leaving this one like storyline and then entering this other one. I mean, I feel like the same synapses fire of when characters meet each other from different storylines.
Yeah.
I'm like, we're all in the same book.
We did it.
Here we are.
He did it.
Yeah.
Josh, any other parts of this huge fight scene stand out to you? I mean, Cutter's in here fighting, Karsa's fighting. You know, everyone's getting a piece.
It's pretty cool. The bear coming back was a nice throwback. This is like the only time Karsa's ever struggled. You know, he had to do a little bit to fight these Hounds of Light. Shows us how powerful they are. Also, would pay a lot of money to see him fight the second Segula.
Would be fun.
Yeah. So where'd he go again, by the way? The second Segula? After the second Segula, where's he go after he murders these Hounds?
Going to go kill Skinner. I don't remember who Skinner is.
We've heard that name. Is Skinner someone involved with that town that the other Segula are from?
Skinner's from the Ice books. You don't sweat it, I would tell you.
Is he related to those other ones? I know there was a name they kept throwing around, but I forget if it was Skinner or not, but probably not.
I don't know where all my Skinner info comes from, so I can't tell you what you are supposed to have known at this point. So he's a guy.
Okay. I do love that he comes right before he starts fighting. He says, "Skinner, I'm coming for you, but first these guys," which I just thought was a really interesting casual line in this book.
But first,
to say these guys. Yeah.
AJ, Tulas Shorn is a part of this whole thing.
Is he?
Could be argued.
Let's talk about it. That's how I feel. Does anyone connect with Mr. Tulas Shorn?
I feel like I was really hot on Tulas Shorn being introduced, and I just like have fully disconnected from him as a character in this latter part of the book. I just really don't really care at all about him.
He does a good job of killing dogs.
He does kill 3 of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great job, bud.
He's a good dragon.
Bummer about your hounds. Sorry.
Yeah.
But, you know, I don't know. I just feel like when he was introduced, it was like, oh, this interesting person is like, oh, the Hounds of Shadow are his. He has a whole conversation with Shadowthrone and Cotillion. It's like, oh, this is interesting. And I don't really feel like there's like any ending to that storyline in this book, at least, which is like fine. I'm just kind of just like, yeah, he's here. Like, that's how I feel. He is here.
He is here. Why elicited?
I don't know.
I don't know. So, India, if Envy and Spite actually got Dragnapur, what do you think that would lead to?
I mean, I hope it would lead to them like going in and saying hi to their dad. That's it.
Interesting.
And just, helping him out. That's it. What do you think would have happened?
Oh, hypothetical. I like it. Pete can't get out of this one. If you deflect, I'm leaving.
I'm not insane. I don't believe they're Animander Rake's kids. So
They're Draconis's kids.
They're Draconis' kids.
Oh, I see. That's right. That makes more sense. That makes more sense that that's what you were saying. Because, well, to be fair, a lot of people are in the sword right now.
Really, anyone could be their dad in the sword.
That's what I meant, and we were going to talk about Animander Rake, so it's okay. Man, I feel like a fucking clown. How fucking embarrassing for me.
Literally, honestly.
Yeah, and I have like read the books or something.
Have you?
Yeah.
What a
Have I?
dweeb.
All right, so Indio, also quick before we go on to Josh, he mentioned the bear showed up. What is up with this bear plotline?
I'm
Like,
annoyed
what is
with
this
it.
bear god even doing?
I'm over it. I don't know. I don't care. I have no idea. I have no idea what anyone's doing, though.
So there's total chaos in the city, and we kind of mentioned that Tullus Shorn is fighting some of them. There's fighting all over the place. And Josh, you mentioned this before, but the fight actually between Iskarl and Krupp ends with Iskarl and Mogara talking. It's just perfect. I have no notes. I really like this part. That's
Me too.
we liked it.
I do just want to say we have blown past the part where Karsa's daughters show up. Remember the prologue of this book?
What? I thought that hasn't happened yet.
No,
it
happened.
happens during this fight because he gets saved by them throwing spears.
Oh,
Yeah.
the conversation hasn't happened yet, is what it is.
So right, AJ.
I just I yelled out loud in my living room because I completely forgot about the prologue of this book.
I did too. Yeah.
Being them leaving to go find Karsa and for them to show up. It was like,
And how long has Karsa been gone?
We haven't,
didn't-
and that's the thing, we haven't even checked in with that plot line since the prologue. It's like,
yeah.
let's go
Yeah.
find Dad 1,200 pages later. Well, we can talk about that more in a sec.
I love a 1,200 page payoff. That's all I'm saying.
So Picker gets kind of sent on a quest, which I guess we'll talk about more when she kind of reaches her destination, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And then Animander Rake arrives, and he is going to kind of make a sacrifice, if you will. AJ, do you feel like this sacrifice was planned by him?
I don't know if planned is the word I would use, but I definitely think it was intended.
What do you mean?
I don't know. Planned makes it seem like there was a lot of forethought. I don't feel like there was a whole lot of forethought. It was just like, I don't know. It was just like, this is a thing I need to do. It wasn't like here's how I'm going to do this thing. It was just like, well, this is this thing that's going to happen and I'm going to do it. I don't know. I guess I'm getting semantic about the word plan versus the word intend, but yeah, I think this was all part of his plan, so to speak.
I think he understood what he had to do.
Yeah, it was like it's not like he made the choice to do it. It was just like a thing that he was gonna have to do, and he was like, "Yeah, I am gonna do this."
Yeah, it was asked of him, and he rose to the occasion, so to speak.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
And then with his people, they all kind of feel his death, and Kellic starts to rain down from the sky over the city. I kind of love this image. Josh, did it strike you?
I mean, a lot. Yeah, I think a lot of the Animator Rake stuff was hitting pretty good at this point. I thought it was awesome.
Yeah. You mentioned him before, Monkrat and Spindle save the children from the camp, and they are kind of clearing the way for Solana to come. Is that what you thought? Is that where you thought this was going with them?
With who?
With this whole, I guess I meant the two of them, but if you mean something else, you can.
Oh no,
on
I
it.
thought you said him. I mean, I figured when Spindle got introduced, I kind of figured that's the way they were gonna go with it. Like kind of help redeem Monkrat for whatever reason. And then, I mean, we knew Solana was going to be the one that kind of did the deed at the end because it's been hinted like 8 times this book so far
Sure.
that
It's
the dragon's
nonstop.
watching the barrow.
Yeah.
But I thought it was pretty cool. And yeah,
All right, Josh. Well, you say we have to redeem Monkrat for some reason, but I guess I would say redemption's a big part of the storyline and kind of what it's reflecting on.
The storyline of the Redeemer?
Oh, crazy take out of me.
I know.
And I would say that's why it's there. I'd be curious if you feel like Monkrat was redeemed, if redemption is a thing, if it's something, I mean, it feels like this is all a part of the milieu, I mean, are you redeemed through a god? Are you redeeming yourself through actions? Are you redeeming blah, blah, blah?
I mean, the book would tell us that it's all of those things,
I don't know.
If you're
Okay, go.
right? I guess. I mean, isn't that what Edkovian came to the realization of with Cyranomen? Is that he makes no judgments. He just offers, a clean start if you wished, and it's up to you to make use of that clean start. That's kind of how it felt to me. So Monkrat didn't go to the Redeemer for that, but Spindle came to him and kind of held out the hand and said, if you're looking for a new start, here's your one shot at it, But you gotta take that shot, whatever's given to you. So it's kind of how it felt the book was going for me. I liked it. I thought it was a really nice message.
Interesting.
You don't get to just absolve yourself by asking for it. In some ways, you can get that. Edkovian will give you that if that's all you think you need. But
it's really interesting. India, what do you think? Do you feel like this absolution or this new slate is coming from a god? Is coming from elsewhere? Or is like, can you have a new slate yourself and kind of decide to start anew and make a change?
That's a loaded question.
It's a big question.
It comes from within, a new slate.
Yeah, I don't know. India, why do you say that?
I don't know. It felt right.
Yeah, it's okay. I was just curious. Do you feel like this chance for Monkrat to redeem himself came from Edkovian?
No, I think it came from within.
AJ, what do you think?
No, I think India's right. I think it's. I mean, it goes with what Edkovian has been saying the whole book. There was that conversation we had a few episodes ago, Pete.
Yeah.
Where Edkovian's talking about, it's not my responsibility to answer people's prayers. It's up to them to just like be good people. And I'm just kind of here. And I think that is the where this book lands on redemption and how Monkrat's story goes. Like, I think it's just a direct mirror of that. Like, they don't need to do it for a god or for anything except for themselves, of just, how they feel about a thing. And I think, like, if people want to say they're doing it for the Redeemer or like in the name of the Redeemer, sure, Edkovian's there, but like, he's not going to do anything to like make a person redeemed, which I think gets a little muddied up by the stuff that happens later in this chapter, in my opinion.
What do you mean by that?
Well, the part with Salind and Edkovian near the end, where it's like, he actually does like physically redeem her, I think kind of muddies the waters of like, it's all up to you and you can just do it yourself. Like you have the power within you to do it. And I think for it to be like, you have it in you, but also, God can give you a hug and you'll be fine. I think that it gets a little wishy-washy there. But the Monkrat story specifically, I think is really nice. And I just, I don't think it's like groundbreaking to bring this quote of this section or anything, but Spindle, they're talking about what it means to be redeemed, and Spindle says to be redeemed, someone's got to do the redeeming, and then Monkrat goes on this whole thing, but maybe it don't have to be someone else. Maybe it's just doing something, being something, someone, and feeling that change inside. It's like you went and redeemed yourself, and nobody's else opinion matters. And he goes on and talks about, you'll still have like questions and stuff about like, are you actually redeemed, whatever, but it doesn't really matter in the end. It's just like, it's what you think about yourself. It's not about what other people, how other people see you. If other people don't see you as redeemed, then, that's not up for them to decide how you feel about it. Like if you feel redeemed about a thing, then you're able to just move on with it. And I think in some ways, like if other people think you're redeemed or not, I think also does make a difference in some situations, but I don't know. I think all in all, like the message of Edkovian as a god or ascendant or whatever the proper term is, being like, it's just up to you. You have to decide to be a good person or to like do what you think is the right thing. And it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks or says, I think is a pretty good message all around for the most part.
I would agree. I find the message to be a very positive it's an interesting idea around redemption. I think you touch on that. I do think there's an end to it, which I think is interesting to think about. It feels in such dialogue with Christianity, this stuff, you know, the idea that you've sinned and you need to atone for it in some sense. But also,
sorry,
what?
Well, I was just going to say, like, using Christianity as an analog, like confession, you know, you're doing that to confess your sins to, you know, the Lord or whatever. But really, it's a you thing. Like, if you feel like confessing your sins is the thing you need to be redeemed for those sins or whatever, that's how you feel about it. You know, like it still comes down to the personal act and the personal feelings of the person being redeemed, you know?
Yeah, 100%. But I also think when it comes to not letting other people's thoughts, I mean, I think what's tough is it feels so in conversation with the type of like God is judging you, or like a church is judging you, or these other people are judging you. And I feel like I confront this line of thought with, you know, what about the people you have harmed, or the people Monkrat has harmed, the people Seardaman have harmed? I mean, to me, it's like, well, their thoughts and opinions are relevant here. And you kind of get into the messy ideas around forgiveness and atonement, which is a whole other set of fish. So, but I just wanted to bring that up a little bit. But I did think, I do find this to be a very powerful section, and I really like the idea. And I think anyone can make a change, and you can always start doing good stuff, you know?
Yeah. I think the point you bring up about redemption versus forgiveness, like, I think there is a clear difference there. Like, to seek forgiveness from, you know, the kids whose parents he's killed or whatever is different than him deciding that, like, I am going to do what I can to, despite everything I've done in the past, I'm going to do everything I can now to help these kids. Like, that is the act of redemption.
Sure.
And then it's up to him, you know, from there on to earn forgiveness or accept that he's never going to be forgiven or whatever. But in order to continue acting in the way that he feels is redemptive or whatever, you know?
Well, to make a positive change, and try and, right. Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah. Forgiveness is a whole separate thing. I just wanted to touch on it because I do think they're both somewhat related in this idea that you've done harm, or more importantly to this, as I kind of mentioned, to what I read as a Christian idea of like, oh, I'm damned. I'm a fallen person. I've done some sort of thing. I am bad and like irredeemable, or I can no longer do good. And I think obviously the Monkrat is kind of makes this affirmative case that you can in fact do good. You just need to start doing it.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Which is a good message, I think.
Good message.
I agree, Mr. Monkrat. All right. So let's get inside the temple. India. Who shows up in the temple? It's Clip. He's here, and there's a bit of a confrontation. What'd you make of this whole scene when Clip arrives? The Dying God's there. Namander shows up eventually.
Well, it was something that I felt. It was a lot. I was confused. I've never really understood what Clip wanted. I still kind of don't.
All right. A little confusion. Josh, how did this confrontation in the temple land for you?
In some way similar to India, because I feel like Clip's, Clip's motivations and the Dying God's motivations have sort of, they both landed him here, but then they kind of couldn't agree on, I don't think, the next step in some way. And they're both so dumb that they had no plan B for Anamander Rake isn't there. You know? I was very glad that this is immediately followed by the scenes of Namander getting there and stuff. But because I was just like, well, this was pretty awkward. And I was very sad because I really thought he was going to just fucking murder Enda Salon right there. And I was very glad that didn't happen.
No, it's scary. I find this part scary. But I do agree. I do think it's not the cleanest. Like, you do have to kind of like think about what's happening in a sense. AJ, how did it land for you?
No, yeah, I mean, I pretty much agree with Indy and Josh. It's like a little bit confusing. You got to think about it. I think like getting this kind of inside look into A, Clip's thoughts, and B, how the Dying God is using Clip.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I thought was pretty interesting because it's not like the Dying God is in control of Clip. It's just the Dying God is like, I guess, kind of amplifying Clip's like worst impulses. to just get, to have Clip take the Dying God where it wants to be, which I think is to Animander Rake. And then we see like when Animander Rake's not there, they're both, I mean, the Dying God's kind of like, bummer. But Clip is like obviously very, very upset by it. But I think it was interesting to like see in this POV that they are still kind of two separate entities. And that Clip as a being is like functioning of his own will. And the Dying God is just kind of there being like, yeah, great job. Keep going.
Yeah. This is one of those times when they cut inside to like the antagonist point of view or this point of view you don't usually have. And I'm like fascinated and want to know more. You know what I mean? Back inside Dragnipur, we see what is going on with the tattoos, the godling, kind of this whole confrontation and climax. The godling tries to stab Kadaspa. So, AJ, what did you make of this sequence?
It was kind of stupid. I was like, I don't know. I just like the thing formed around Animander Rake and, he didn't see it was coming. And Caspa's like, I win. And it's like, you obviously don't, like, you clearly don't, looking at it from like, I'm reading a book. I know that this isn't, I don't know. I felt pretty confident that this isn't how Animander Rake's story was going to end, with him being stabbed by a crazy god or whatever. I thought the conversation with Ditch, or that Ditch has with the godling of like, you can exist for other people instead of just being for yourself. And the godling being like, what? Whoa, that's wild. I thought that was, I don't know, good, I guess. I think it really just drives home the whole idea that we've been talking about this whole book of Animander Rake just being the best, most selfless person to ever exist ever. And his influence or whatever rippling outward. I don't know. So, it's just kind of silly, I think. Not silly, but just I was just kind of like, yeah, all right.
Sure. Did you end up liking Ditch as a character?
I always kind of interested in Ditch this whole time. I wouldn't say, even now, I wouldn't say I like Ditch. I enjoyed the scenes with Ditch in them, but I feel like we don't really super know a whole lot about Ditch as a character. And especially since he's been just like up on the top of the cart, he's kind of just been there. I don't know, going through some like unknowable god stuff, just like in his feels or whatever.
I would say weirdly Ditch is one of my top 10 favorite characters. Shout out.
Really?
Yeah, I think it's I don't know. I think the storyline's pretty interesting. But Ditch is a character I'm not so
But AJ, I would agree. We know not that much about him, but shout out. He's my guy.
Shout out.
Love it. I love that for you.
Okay, so India, then Rake is there, and this is kind of his last moment. So how did this kind of strike you, Animander Rake's last kind of sacrifice, so to speak?
Depressing, but like also dramatic.
Very dramatic.
Like so,
Animander Rake's
like so dramatic.
He's always got a passion for flair.
Flair for the dramatic, yeah.
Yeah.
Can we just like clarify what happened? Like he
Sure.
needed the eye of the godling, which then let him connect to Corald Galen somehow. Like what?
And he had to dissolve himself. It was very confusing.
Then he like becomes darkness, and then
I'm just
Mother
I guess
Dark's
confused.
there.
I'm just
Mother Dark was also like on her way to him.
Yeah. I guess the power of the eye is what really got me of like, oh, I don't know. It's just interesting.
I have to tell you, the whole like Animander Rake, Mother Dark relationship, whatever's going on there, it just feels like it's over my head, or so there's something I'm not getting. I mean, it feels like I should be connecting with something, and I don't really connect with it. I don't really get it, to be honest.
Important question. Have you read Carcanus, and does that fucking go into it at all?
I have not read Carcanus, and I believe it is addressed.
Okay.
Or I gotta say, if it's not addressed, what are those books about?
Thank you. Okay, good.
Well, I know the first one. Didn't Steve tell us the first one doesn't have Animander Rake in it at all?
I don't know. Sounds about right. Actually, it's actually about Carcanus, but the Tisty Indy aren't in it. Okay. Josh, Namander shows up. We talked about it briefly before. Did you like this ending for Namander storyline? Do you feel like this journey, this confrontation at the temple?
I don't know how I feel about the Namander storyline, because I feel like this book, he really let me think on it. The literal time that he exists in this book. He does like such a crazy amount of character growth that it's almost a little unbelievable compared to last book where they are like trudging through bullshit together. And like, my memory's probably wrong, but I don't remember him getting like, I don't remember him being this like leader type character so much last book. And then in this book, he just kind of becomes the king he becomes the de facto second Animander Rake. And it feels a little, I want to say rush, and I think it's just because like we see them in such short snippets. I thought the scene of him arriving and kind of, helping and saving the day is cool, and learning like, wait a minute, Arantha's Mother Dark, like that was fucking funny because we've known for some time that she's something, but I did not expect her to be the literal god that everyone's looked for fucking 8 books. So I don't know. I have very mixed feelings on it. I think on a reread, I would probably appreciate his journey a bit more. I also feel like he went from reluctant leader to fuck you, I'm the leader. Like, he's never that aggressive about it. But he went from like reluctant to like, yes, I am your leader now, like really quickly. I guess that people dying does that.
Yeah, I think, Josh, it's a mirror of, Animander Rake's final sacrifice. Draconis has this whole thing about like, Mother Dark, you have to look at him now because everything he did wasn't for him. It was for you and for the Tistiandi and for everybody else. So I think now Namander is kind of adopting that role of like, I'm doing it for everybody else.
Yeah, I guess his reluctance to lead is kind of the good thing, I guess.
Right. Yeah, you don't want to give power to someone who wants it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This kind of gate to Kroll Ghislaine is kind of formed. Mother Dark's here, and there's kind of a scene between Endist and Mother Dark. AJ, how did you read this scene? What did it mean to you?
I mean, it's like the, oh fuck, what was his name? The Candle Kid from last book.
Beak.
It's kind of like the Beak scene at the end of, or in Bone Hunters, of like, we're just kind of seeing him be passed on to the next life or whatever. That's kind of how I read it. Like Endis is kind of also becoming one with Dark or that whole thing,
Sure.
So it's just kind of, this servant, the large power being accepted by the large power of like, you've done a great job, Pat, come with me. That's kind of how I had read it.
Yeah, I kind of like the imagery, and of course, then there's a little more.
Yeah, the river imagery is great.
A little more river imagery.
Yeah,
that was good.
Yeah.
Little Dorson Rill shout out.
Yeah, I liked that.
So India next is kind of the Saland is attacking Ikovian, and then Ikovian kind of embraces her. What did you make of this as the end of Saland's story and her kind of Ikovian kind of taking on her burden, so to speak?
This also was, I feel like I keep saying this, but this also was confusing. I felt good about it, I guess, because I felt bad for Saland. Because really this really wasn't her fault.
No, not at all.
So it's like sad that like she's so shitty because like it's really not her. So I think it was like, I guess, as good an ending as we could have hoped for.
So how did you feel about it from the Ikovian end? Obviously here he's taking a very active role in kind of redeeming, not redeeming someone, so to speak, but embracing them.
Oh my God, I'm over it.
She's over it? What do you mean?
I'm so sick of it. Yeah, he's so nice and helpful and good and redeeming. And he's the redeemer. I'm over it.
All right.
Kovian is just annoying, and I can't get past it.
Can't get past it. Josh, what do you think?
I don't really have strong thoughts on it. I thought it was nice. That was cool. I'm sure the storyline's over, so.
All right. So, inside then, Whiskey Jack and Draconis are talking a little bit, and this is our first time really seeing Whiskey Jack talk in a bit.
Can I ask a question?
Sir? Okay.
Someone comments on Whiskey Jack saying, I wonder why he's going by Iskar Jurak, a 7 cities name. That's pretty weird. Do we know anything like, is that because he's from 7 cities, people don't know that? Or is this a thing to come up later, Peter?
I don't understand your question. I was
just trying to make sure like I know everything there is to know about Whiskey Jack. I thought he was from the normal Malazan Empire, not from the Seven Cities, because that wasn't conquered until he was a soldier with the Malazan army.
Yeah, well, first off, I don't know what you mean by normal Malazan Empire, but if you, he is not from Seven Cities, if that's what you mean.
Okay.
At least I'm pretty sure about that, and I don't think his name is like obvious. Maybe Iskar Jarek is like a distinctive Seven Cities sounding name, is what they're getting at.
Okay. I was confused. Talk brought it up, and I was like, that's a weird thing to bring up right in this moment, unless it's going to come back later. But
yeah, well, that's thanks to, I mean, we know it's a Seven Cities name in a very meta sense because we talk to there's the tribesmen and they talk about the bridge, and I think, do they use Iskar Jarek's name there?
Yes, they do. Thank you for reminding me that, Peter. Yes.
Do they use Iskar Jarek's name, or do they just call him?
They say Iskar Jarek, and one of us put together that was probably Whiskey Jack, and there was a different interpretation.
That was you.
It was you. But I agree. I'm not 100% sure why it's like this is a distinctive Seven Cities name, but I guess it's maybe just context we don't have.
All right, thank you. I totally forgot that they called him that. Thank you so much.
Did you have any thoughts about this conversation while they're kind of mourning Rake? It's kind of the start of a series of chapters where it's a series of scenes where we're kind of mourning in Amanda Rake. We see them, we see people in Darujistan, and then we see, of course, them make a barrow for him.
Yeah. I mean, I just thought it was a nice moment. We have a lot of very powerful characters in this series die, and they don't always get the ending they deserve right in the moment. So it was nice for Amanda Rake to actually, get that. Thought he earned it.
Yeah, I think so too. And then we see we there's a whole procession through the city. AJ, did this strike you?
Yeah, I mean it's sad. I think it's pretty poetic that Caladan Brood is the one that brings him to the barrow and stuff. I liked it.
Marks the barrow with the word grief.
Grief, yeah, in
Barghast,
which I forgot or maybe didn't know. That is Caladan Brood a Barghast?
No, I just think they're
he just wrote it.
Allies related on the continent. In my mind, they've spent time together.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the barrow thing is like a Tiblor, like Toblakai / Barghast thing. They're all like the same lineage, right?
Yeah. So, India, do you have anything you would like to add about the procession of Amanda Rake's body?
No, good guy.
Good guy.
Good dude.
Shout out. So then let's talk about the actual conversation Karsa has with his daughters, and Samar's there. What did you make of this scene, India?
It was bizarre.
Okay, tell me more.
Oh, God, wait, no. They're sisters and aunt and niece, I just realized.
Okay.
Oh.
So I have a... Okay.
Okay.
What? Okay. It's really hard to... This was weird, and I didn't like it, and I wish that the daughters... I just wish that this whole thing didn't happen. Because it's, first of all, really weird for, like, a rapist to be like, for daughters to be like, hey, dad, like, we really want to meet you. And that's just so fucking weird. And also it was like a mother and a daughter, and he was like, and then Samar's like, oh, like, and then he's like, well, it was my right. And she was like, yeah, but like, no, you like did not do an okay thing. And he's like, well, I have regrets or whatever. But
I was young.
But I don't regret my daughters. And it's like, what? Like, the whole thing was weird. I felt really bad about it. Like, I don't know if it was supposed to be like sweet. I don't know. It came off as icky, and I really didn't like it. I hated it. It was awkward. I couldn't can't connect. I couldn't connect. I was horrified.
I don't think this is a moment where we're meant to see Karsa as like some sort of soft-hearted, nice guy or whatever. I think it's meant to be like
wild.
This part of his past exists and is now here, and he has to deal with it.
Well, I feel like Samar was kind of be a little bit like, maybe he's not so bad. I don't know. Love makes you say crazy things.
I don't know. Do you feel like Samar's like thinks it's like charming for him to say?
No, I just feel like she's like, that's my man. Like, I'm gonna stand by my man. And maybe he's not so bad. Yeah. I do.
Really?
Maybe he is capable of like feeling bad about things. And she says that all the time. Like it's always about that.
I don't know. I think I read this as her just being like surprised that he has regrets, but I don't think like.
Oh.
I didn't think it was like a.
No, maybe not.
Well,
maybe
thank
not.
goodness he feels bad about it.
Who am I?
Because like right before he says he has regrets, she's talking about the way that claiming a right so often results in someone else losing theirs.
That's a great line.
It's very good. Yeah.
That is a great line.
And then when he says like, you know, it was tribal war and I was young, and I think this is her kind of laughing at him like, oh, you're actually telling me you regret this?
Mhm.
Like I've never seen you regret something. It's nice that you are regretting this, I guess, but like she's not, I don't think she's really letting him off the hook really.
Josh, what do you think?
It's weird, and I'm happy that he has regrets, but it's still weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As I stated, those two people are both sisters and aunt/niece.
Sure. I feel like you're getting hung up on the wrong part of it, Josh.
I disagree. Disagree.
That's very funny, Josh. Listen, India, I mean, I'm in agreement with you. As you know, I am a harsh Karsa critic. And to me, when people are like, oh, he's reformed, he's changed a lot, he's like a good guy. I mean, I read this scene and feel like he does not come across as a good guy whatsoever. And I think I've made a mistake is like the lowest bar for accountability for being a rapist.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I totally get feeling weird about the scene. It's interesting, I guess. AJ, it looks like you wanted to follow up about something.
No, it ends with Picker saying that you have a mission to go kill a god, and he says, "Okay."
Yeah. Which one? Poor Picker fucking put on some cool bangles, you know, like 7 years ago, and now she's fucking ride or die with Treach forever.
Yeah, we should talk about that a little bit. I feel like I kind of lost track of that. I will say, in a way that I almost wish the Chalice storyline ended this way. I feel like the Karsa being confronted by his daughter's thing is the start to more story, you know? It's like, this isn't, I don't feel like that's the end of that. Do you know what I mean? It feels like, oh, okay, this is setting up more story. And I almost wish the Chalice storyline also was like, okay, yeah, well, a whole new complicated chapter of Chalice's life is beginning. Mm-hmm. But obviously it does not end that way. So, all right, someone else pivot us to something. I got to pick up something from the ground.
Okay.
All right. While Peter's picking something up off the ground, India,
no.
Do you ever see Cotillion as like your direct supervisor at work who's not an idiot, and Shadowthrone is the one above them who like you have no fucking clue how they got there?
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh yeah, that's kind of the vibe I get from them.
Yeah, agreed, 100%.
It makes you wonder how Kellenved created an entire empire. Maybe he just kind of like fucking lucked his way into it. You never know.
I mean, with people like Dancer at your side, you know, you don't need to, you know, it's
That's
the same
true.
situation they're in now, where like Cotillion is actually like a capable person, and Shadowthrone's like, yes, absolutely.
If you give me 20 assassins, I too could create a pretty formidable empire, I'm sure.
Yeah. I am curious. Cotillion says things are out of their hands until the end. I'm curious what that means.
Well, they've played their card, right? This was the big one. They stopped chaos. You know, I guess maybe if these chaos forces were part of the crippled god who has said to be like the god of chaos, then maybe there was a really bad problem with them getting to Curled Glane, and they could just like create eternal darkness or destroy darkness. Who fucking knows? So maybe like this was their big play to kind of break this off, and now it's up to these gods of war to do their thing.
Yeah.
It's hard to say.
Yeah, I guess we have had a lot of war god talk.
A lot of war god talk in this book.
In the end of this, yeah. And Gruntel's there, and Samar Dev, and
Picker had to go get Karsa to help with that. We had the war bear god.
Yeah.
You know, maybe we need to wake up Burn. Who fucking knows?
Yeah. Yeah. Josh, what do you think?
Go ahead.
I was just going to ask, what do you think about Crocus hitching a ride with Spite back to Seven Cities? We're just going back across the ocean, baby. We're heading back. I
think Cutter, now Crocus, has grown a lot. and I'm excited to see where his story goes. Although,
Josh, let me cut in. You say he's grown a lot. What do you think he learned this book?
That why are you like this? You can't just leave and tell us to pick up the pieces and then come back and immediately throw hard questions at us.
Okay, well, sorry, I just want to know what you thought about the book we read, Josh.
No, that's fine. I'm gonna do the
sorry
Peter thing,
we're
though,
talking
and
about
I'm
the
gonna
book on the podcast.
I'm gonna get upset by this question and deflect, and then I'm going to just stop talking until the next question's asked.
Solara and Barathol kiss.
It's
Finally.
true, they kissed.
Hooray!
We waited like 7 chapters for it.
Yeah.
Do you think it's going to be a happily ever after?
I think we're not going to see them again.
Nah, I think we'll see them in.
No, you're right.
In at least an epilogue.
Oh no, they're going to be important because we've got to come back here because there's all this talk about towards the end with Vorkin and Baruch talking about the tyrants were trying to come back. So we're going to come back here at some point. Char is going to have to get looked into.
Skipping ahead, Josh. You're skipping ahead.
I'm sorry, but I had made a statement we wouldn't see him again, and I'm fucking wrong. We're definitely coming back to Rudistan. Then
Krupp says that love is in the air. We see various people. Picker and Blender together. Iskarl there. The Noms return home. And Krupp is kind of narrating the story. And who makes his way home to end the chapter? Harlow gets home.
Now, what's up, though? Where's this little boy who saved him?
He died.
Right. No. The little boy who saved him, not the guy from the
one that
mining
showed
camp.
up? Yeah, that's a mystery.
Is he with him? Because he does, like, quote unquote talk. Like, he says something to the boy who died, and I'm like, is the little boy here and you've named him that guy's name? So many questions on that front.
No, I think when Harlow is talking about the city to Bainisk, I think that's just like a poetic thing.
I thought that too, but I'm so where is this fucking random boy from the woods?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's a good question. Who's to say?
I don't. You know what? I'm not going to say anything.
Okay.
I love this part when Harlow comes back. It made me cry.
Tell me about it.
Yeah. Are you saying tell me about it like you agree, or tell me about it like actually tell you about it?
No, actually tell me about it.
No, I mean, honestly, it's kind of a storyline I forgot with all the crazy shit going on. And I don't know. I just liked it a lot. And Stoney starts crying and he says, "No, I've come home. That's what this is. It's me coming home." It's just, she says, "I have no good memories of that time. Nothing good came of it." And he says, "That's not true. That's not true. There was me." Which is sad. Just, I don't know. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's sad, but also, she has also said as much. And for him to, I don't know, like, I don't think he's like realizing her feelings for him. He's like, "No, I am a good thing.
Bitch.
Like, appreciate me." Yeah. Which I think is, a tough boundary to set for a 5-year-old, but I think a necessary one. So I really liked it. And then for him to end with "See Bainisk, this is my mother" is just like, oof, man.
Yeah, I think it's a powerful reflection of, obviously earlier when he's being chased, he's like, "I'm unlovable, no one loves me." And then he finds that within himself and kind of through that is able to help his mother. Yeah. Which is probably more than a 5-year-old should be asked to do, in a sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
But life's hard sometimes.
Life's hard. Good shit.
And moves you. Yeah, so we are really doing it. So AJ, quick bump a tune. We'll do the epilogue, then we'll get out of here.
He's got us.
Okay, so India, we're in Black Coral. Did it shock you that Namander was chosen to be the leader?
Pissed. And I heard your little laugh in there. Yeah, it did fucking shock me, but no, because you all said it. To be honest, the whole setup here, he's been the leader technically the whole time, although he did nothing. He just kind of fucking stumbled upon this. But yeah, I'm annoyed. But good for him. Whatever.
Yeah. Everyone else is kind of rebuilding their Josh, do you think we'll see from these people again?
Oh, that's actually a really good question. I feel like more than almost any other storyline, this one is pretty wrapped up. But I feel like we'll have to see Namander. I mean, the Tisti-Andor are still such a dominant force in the world. Like, it would be crazy to not see them again. So, but their shit's been solved. They got Mother Dark back.
Yeah.
So
I don't know, Josh. I feel like they might be done.
So
maybe that's what Karkanis is about. They rebuild their city there at whatever this place is called.
Black Oral.
So AJ, we also see Kaladin Brood break Dragnaburn.
Yeah.
The end of the sword.
I mean, he begins to break it. We technically don't see him actually break it, so it could not be broken, you know.
Yeah. True.
No, yeah. I thought that was cool. That's all I got from that. I thought it was cool that he's breaking the sword. Vorkan and Baruch are talking about a whole thing that I don't fully remember.
They're talking about the Torrid Cabal.
Yeah.
Is that what you mean?
That's from the first book, right? Fucking
Yeah. It's
Christ.
a whole thing. And yeah, we can just leave that. Josh, there's also a bit of a mention that Draconis is back.
Yes, I was almost brought this up earlier, but it's like the big thing. Where are they? So cute. I mean, Draconis would be back. It would mean that would Hood be back? I can't
Probably.
remember. Right? Everyone in there should be back. So Hood should have returned. Does that mean Traveler's going to go try and fucking kill him again? I don't know. Unclear. But I'm so ecstatic to see. Where are they going to be? I don't know. Maybe
Where are they
maybe
gonna
with
be?
all the shit we left last book. Maybe they'll show up with the Bone Hunters.
All right, AJ, and we return to the campfire, and Kruppa finishes narrating the book.
He does a little dance.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think of kind of Krupp wrapping the whole thing up?
I mean, I think it was good. What do you mean? What do I think of it? Just like,
You know what? Let's leave it, because I just want to get into the bigger Krupp narrating the book impressions, but we should do that next week for our
in 2 weeks.
mailbag wrap up. Listen, thanks so much for listening to this extra size episode for a big finale of Toll the Hounds. I mean, a huge ending to a huge book. We are going to be talking about the answering mail. You know the drill. It's in 2 weeks. So get in that mail. AJ will tell you more in the outro. We're all going to go eat. We got stuff to do. I hope you're having a great day. I say come. You say passion. Come.
Passion. Hello, everybody. Producer AJ here, right here. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the podcast. Like Pete just said, in 2 weeks, we will be doing our Toll the Hounds wrap-up / mailbag show, which means we want to hear your thoughts and we want to answer your questions about Toll the Hounds and this season of the podcast. So you can get your submissions in by next week, August 26th. That is 7 days from the release of this episode, via our Twitter at 10verybooks, our email 10verybooks@gmail.com, or in the mailbag channel in our Discord, bit.ly/VBB Discord. That's capital V, capital B, capital B, capital D, Discord. All those links will also be in the show notes. Please get your submissions in by next week, August 26th. Thank you to all of our wonderful patrons over on Patreon. If you'd like to financially support the show, you can head on over to patreon.com/10verybigbooks. We have something really special planned that'll start in the next couple of weeks, so you should be looking forward to that if you are a fan of certain media adaptations of fantasy works. The link to our Patreon also in the show notes. And as always, thank you so very much to Dan Geserick for making our spectacular cover art. You can follow him on Twitter at @A_W_DanG for a Flyers graphic that I just cannot make sense of. And of course, the wonderful music in today's episode is by the one, the only Amaranthin from his album Simulant Rain, which you can find along with his other music, including remixed intro and outro tracks for this very podcast on bandcamp.com. Links to their pages will be in the show notes, and 10 Very Big Books will be back in 2 weeks on September 2nd, reading your questions and comments on Toll the Hounds in our mailbag show. So get your questions in, please, by next week, August 26th. We'll talk to you then, and thank you so much for listening.